All right. I am joined today on the Jason Wright Show by Wes Austin, patent attorney turned comedian. Thanks for being on here, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, okay, so I got to tell the audience, this is one of the best parts of having a podcast is I like so many other people, I peruse social media, and then every once in a while a character stands out that I'm like, oh, this guy's good. And I started following you on YouTube and watching your shorts on just kind of quick political commentary, very Comedy Central esque from the old days of like the way Stephen Colbert showed up, and I guess that's how kind of Steve Carell. And I was like, oh, this is really good. And so after watching you now for quite some time, I thought, well, I'm going to find out more about Wes Austin, and then I find out that you're an attorney and then you're also doing stand up. I was like, okay, I've got to invite this guy on and find out more about him. So good to meet you, Wes.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you saw me and you're like, clearly a midlife crisis like you can't believe. I've got to talk to this guy.
No, see, it's quite here's the thing, man, and that's why this is so cool to have this conversation because I don't know. We're probably similar age. I'm 47. How old are you? You might be younger than me.
I'm I'm just a little bit older, just barely in my 50s, like
Okay, well,
52.
okay,
Yeah,
same generation. All right, so at 40-ish, I took a completely different turn. I relaunched a book that I'd written previously, wrote another book, started the podcast. Very much like, do you follow Rich Roll at all?
Oh, I've heard his name and I've listened to some of his stuff before. Yeah.
Okay, so Rich Roll writes his first book at 45, becomes an endurance athlete at 45. I think we live in a day where there's so many more people that you're hearing not the midlife crisis stories, but some sort of midlife launch, kind of almost like a midlife rebirth. And so it's interesting you bring that up because that's why the Jason Wright Show basically exists. I just at the midpoint of my life, whenever I was actually feeling kind of at a low point, I was like, I want to do something that I just truly love and enjoy just for the fun of it. I want to create. And so it looks like you follow that path to some degree. And I think that's a perfect tee up to kind of start this thing. So, how does this evolution begin from attorney to stand up? Where does the social media come in? Why the political commentary? Just kind of give us a flavor. Start where you want to, Wes.
Um, yeah, I became a patent lawyer, but I always had this creative need. I like to be funny. I like to make jokes, and I got into the law, and so I was just working a ton. But I just felt like something was missing, and I just was not feeling great because I could tell I just if I couldn't express this, it was almost like it was making me sick, kind of, because I just sure didn't feel great. And so probably around 2001 or 2002, it was right when the comedy club here opened. I went because I thought, okay, I'm gonna try stand up, and I went like 3 or 4 times, and I was too scared to get on stage. And then I thought, I'll do this later, and then I didn't go back again. Dang it! So then I waited. I don't know. It was probably another 5 or 6, 7 years, and I thought, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make funny short little videos, and I'm gonna just post these. Now YouTube wasn't around yet, so my timing might be off, but this was before YouTube was big,
Okay.
and I started doing these funny little videos. And one of my colleagues, another lawyer in Salt Lake City, saw one, and he called me and he said, "Are you insane? You're going to get fired. No clients are going to want to use you. You're going to be a pariah. Just get a." So I stopped doing it, deleted all my videos, just went back to the law. So then finally you finally get around to like 2014, and I'm like, okay, I've got to do something because this is not great. So then I started with this. I'm going to do a web series. It was looking back, I'm like, what? That was so big. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was exciting enough that it got me out of my office and it got me to do it. And I started doing stand up at that same time. And then this time I stuck with it and I didn't quit, even though people gave me crap. Which, I mean, I look back and I think, oh man, I quit twice. And if I just would have kept, but I was too worried about what everybody else thought about what I was doing. So I had two false starts, and then 2014 I finally really started and didn't quit, and so I've just been going on it ever since.
So I feel like I have to stay here for a little while because you just uncovered almost just kind of like in drive-by fashion something that I think keeps so many people from pursuing their true calling, ambition, purpose, whatever you want to call it. Uh, and it's this idea of being, and I write about this a lot, and this audience has heard me speak about it as well as write in my newsletter about the fact that get so caught up in what others think of us. Gary Vaynerchuk, it's one of the biggest things that he preaches is you finally, at some point, you've got to just finally say, I don't care what people think, because if you're doing something unusual, then everyone's going to treat you like you're doing something unusual. So,
Mhm.
how, first of all, how did it feel that first time you got up on stage to do stand up?
Okay, so it was in 2014 when I got up, and it it was an out of body experience. I was so scared. Like I was so nervous. I thought I was going to throw up beforehand. It was just, and the crowd, they told everybody this is his first time, and usually when they tell the crowd that, they're super nice and very giving, and so the crowd was nice, but I honestly didn't even know what I said when I got off stage. If somebody said, "What did you just do?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It almost felt like my spirit left my body and looked down at
Mm-hmm.
myself. It was so, but I kind of knew, I just knew I needed to do it, but it was also super scary and just that hurdle to kind of get over. But anyway, that's how that first time was.
So,
It's just,
and that sounds like what most people that I've talked to that have had that experience. I've done some elements of stand up, but never gone to say, okay, hey, I'm Jason, I'm here to make you laugh. Always wanted to. And now I think that having with COVID behind us, I mean, I've done the same thing. I live in Tyler, which is only 90 miles away from one of the very first improv clubs over in Addison. And, I've absolutely got to do that because if nothing else, you get to a certain age, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the whole midlife thing. I always tell people that when I turned 40, the best part of it was my I don't give a damn meter just pegged. Just I don't care as much because you start to realize that we're all on kind of borrowed time. We were all born with this death sentence, and it's like if you don't do it now, then like Zig Ziglar used to say, okay, so you want to become a lawyer and you're 50. Well, the only thing that's going to change by the time you're 55 is either one, you start and you're a lawyer at 55, or two, you're 55 and you're still not a lawyer. It just, time's not stopping. So I really admire the fact that even though you had those two kind of false starts, that you finally got to going on that. And have you heard of, or do you ever follow any of James Altucher's work at all?
oh yeah, yeah. I listen to his podcasts, and he's somebody I really like. Yeah,
So his deal, he was kind of the same way, kind of the same things that we're talking about. So James has reinvented himself like I don't know how many times. That's why I love the guy so much. He's almost
yeah.
he would never call himself this, but he's as close to a polymath or kind of like a modern day Renaissance man as I can think of. And he went to New York and did a stand up act on the subway. That's how he
Oh
tested his
jeez,
act,
yeah.
and then he ended up, and then he has this book, Skip the Line, which is fantastic for anyone out there about don't worry about just following normal kind of conventions. Instead, find your own way to get where you want to go. Well, he wanted to do stand up, so he bought a comedy club so that he would always be able to go up on stage, and he had, and so that was something he did, and I think that doing stand up is one of the most ballsy things you can ever do. So, okay, enough of that from me because I want to talk more about you because I think you've gone through a really really cool thing of life. So that was 2014. Now, when did you were the very first shorts that you were doing that your colleague kind of confronted you about, said, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" Were those political in nature? Were they skits? What were you doing? And when does this little political take on things come into play?
Back when I did my first little short videos, so this was probably, I don't know, 2006, 7. Just I might be off a little bit. those were those were like little uh, bathroom humor sorts of videos. They had nothing to do with politics, but they were more like, some family jokes and bathroom jokes and just stuff that I thought was funny, but that's kind of the vein it was in. And I don't know how many I did. I probably did at least 15 or so short videos like that. And I mean, I look back and I want to kick myself because I think if you would have kept going and not stopped, when YouTube kind of came out and started to be something, you would have had a whole, you know, like a whole catalog of videos to, anyway, but I quit because I was scared. So, but that's what the first videos were like.
Well, and the thing is, going back to what I was saying previously, that at least you picked it back up. And to the listener, and that's one of the things, okay, the motto of the Jason Wright Show is to improve always and always. And one of the things that I would tell any listener out there is listen, please, to what Wes is saying, is that if you have endeavored upon something that you know in your heart of hearts, you're never going to be settled until you pursue it. Don't stop. I did the same thing. Now, mine was a little different because I started out back, man, before there was even before iTunes. It was right at the edge of iTunes, and podcasting was not even a thing. I had an internet radio show doing political commentary, and
Oh
I was the same way, man. Before there was a Ben Shapiro, there was the right side of the aisle, my name, a play on my name. And I would come in every Friday and do a live internet radio. But who the hell is going to be listening to a live stream at that point through their computer? And then right as I finally decided, okay, I'm going to run for city council here in Tyler, I probably don't need to be doing that. And I just was like, this isn't getting the traction I wanted. And so I stopped. And right as I stopped, that's when iTunes came along, podcasts became a thing. And I look back, man, and I go, oh my gosh. But the cool thing is, now I'm a silver lining kind of guy, Wes. And I think that had I pursued that role, I would have been kind of in that Ben Shapiro box, and I don't know that that's what the box I'd want to be in. It gave me more time to kind of just watch content evolve from YouTube, different podcasts. The first podcast I ever subscribed to was Tim Ferriss's, and started learning about all these different kind of, things. And so, just to say to you and to the listener out there, at least you're here. And here's the thing I want to get to, and I'm going to kind of do like a Joe Rogan here. I'm going to purposely play the idiot. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I want to tee it up for you to describe to this audience kind of why you actually create, even though the only benefit is for your own. Did you ever set out to do the first videos, the stand-up, or what you're even doing now to make a fortune, to become the next Jerry Seinfeld? Or was that the goal? What was the ambition?
No, like because I'm a lawyer, I kind of was making a comfortable living, and so I knew the more I got into comedy, I thought, well, I'm not going to make any money doing this. I want to do it. I actually thought, I'm probably I need to have enough money saved that I can just live okay on not making as much money being a lawyer part-time, because I clearly won't make a dime doing comedy or making these short little videos. But I don't know how to really express it other than it made me feel good to create and put something out. And I knew from my life before, when I wasn't creating anything, I was kind of sick. I was probably 25, 30 pounds heavier. My blood pressure was really high. One of the things that got me to actually start doing something was I was in a grocery store, those little blood pressure things that you can sit in and put your arm in. I did that, and I saw the numbers, and it was high. It was on the high. I thought, what is happening right now? I was a young guy. So I do think I was physically kind of not as healthy as I could have been, because I know that sounds dumb, but I wasn't able to share and express this creative spark, and it was kind of making me sick. I just didn't feel good.
And I think and that's why I ask. And it's the same thing to people that set out to do things just for money or fame or whatever other vain pursuits might follow. the real reward is just doing a thing to find purpose in it. And so, and that's why I do this podcast. That's why I write my books is it's I hope that people read it. I hope that people find some sort of joy, but more than anything, the ability to find something to create. And it also puts you in a flow state, which I think is incredibly important. The Picasso's work ethic was legendary, and it wasn't because Picasso was painting to add to his fortune. He just loved what he was doing. And most creators and artists, you'll find that. A guy that's actually been on the podcast that I discovered exactly the way I found you is a guy named Dave Brubaker, who is he started Semi Stupid, where he does these deals where he puts himself in as a cameo into real movies, and that's his creative outlet. And now he's got
Oh, nice.
over 1 million followers. He was one of the early ones on TikTok to do that. I'm like, and that's what we talked. And he and I want to get into this with you because we kind of exchanged messages offline that we're both into health and wellness and everything. And one of the things that Dave has realized is that this is just a part of his overall health and wellness protocol. It's his creative outlet, but he's also reading. He's feeding his mind. He's doing cold showers and ice baths and the working out and all the. It's just kind of once you start to realize how to truly optimize life, the creative component can be a key to that. But most people think, well, unless I'm going to go do this professionally, well, why even pursue it? If I'm not good enough to be a full-time stand-up or a full-time artist of some kind, why even pursue it? But like it sounds to me like you've discovered that no, just having that creative outlet, it brings a fulfillment that in and of itself, that's where the value is, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I could feel it. And when I started that 2014, when I really started and kept with it, I was feeling better. And my wife actually said, she said, I can tell you're a lot happier. Keep doing this stuff. And then, and I don't know, I dropped, I think 20 pounds within that first year. And most of that, I really wasn't doing anything differently other than I was trying to be creative and doing
Mm-hmm.
something. I felt like I was this little purpose I had that was kind of stuck and I wasn't ever doing something about it. When I finally started to do something about it, I did. I just got healthier and I really wasn't doing that much different other than I was starting to express this creativity, which was, I've heard people say that. I'm like, that's dumb. I don't know. And then it happened to me like, maybe that actually did. I
Yeah.
don't know. When it happens to you, it's like, okay, maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Well, you start to release dopamine in healthy ways. Creating one of your videos as opposed to what some people do, which is go snort a line of cocaine or drink too much or do something stupid. Or go buy crap they don't need. Instead,
Right.
you're creating. You're becoming a producer, not a consumer. Okay, so when do you start making takes on politics? When does that kind of get into the fray?
Okay, so when I started my YouTube channel, which was probably 2018,
Okay.
I was doing, I was trying to do something about a funny patents, or I was digging into more legal topics in more of a 7, 8 minute format or something. I couldn't get views to save my life. I like just could not. And and then somewhere along the line, I kind of did a short, and I've always loved like the old Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live when I was young, not
Yes.
what they do now. Back
Yes.
when
Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, the classics,
yes,
and then Norm
yeah, yeah.
Macdonald, which was
Oh,
all, I mean,
he was
a
he was the
master.
best. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That and maybe Jon Stewart back in the old days,
Yep.
or Colbert back in the old days, and I kind of touched on that a little bit in a short, and I actually got a little bit of traction, and it was the only thing I had done on YouTube that got any kind of traction at all. And I thought, okay, I that was fun. I liked doing it, and YouTube actually seemed to like it too. So I'm going to keep doing that because it was kind of a nice. It synchronized what I really liked doing along with YouTube actually rewarding what I was doing. And also, when I looked around, I thought, okay, I see all these comedians from Hollywood. They love to make fun of conservative people nonstop. And I didn't see hardly anybody on the other side, just like I want to make my conservative friends laugh because
Yep.
they can't watch anything they're going to get ripped on because they believe in this or this or this. I want to be the guy who makes the conservatives laugh because there's only like three of us.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that was another reason why I did it. I thought it's so unbalanced right now, and I was hoping there would be a little niche for somebody to actually do that if I started really hitting it hard.
Well, and the thing is, first of all, you just told me everything that, so I don't know. I take this as a confirming response. I knew that you would probably bring up the Daily Show, Weekend Update, and because your commentary, man, I'm telling you, it looks very, it looks seasoned. It's well done, and so I want to
Oh, thank
encourage you
you.
to keep going. And two, you're exactly right. Conservative humor to this point has been non-existent, and that's the thing, man. Let's just talk about Saturday Night Live a little bit. So I was born in '75, the year that Saturday Night Live started. My dad, back when I was really young, worked nights before he and my mom divorced, and so obviously '75. I don't remember that season since it was the year I was born, but it was during those original cast days. I mean, Belushi, Aykroyd. I love the Coneheads. At some point in my very, very young life, I became aware of Saturday Night Live very early, and so it was. So I grew up during that, as did you, that golden era of SNL.
Mhm.
And there used to be a time, yes, it always slanted left, but then now I told my wife this past, I think this maybe just a couple weekends ago. I said, it's really a shame because I would never even consider it would never even hit my radar to watch Saturday Night Live now. Whereas there used to be a time that it was kind of like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I may not sit down and watch the whole thing, but I would at least have it on. I wanted to be able to say, I at least caught a little bit and if nothing else, I would watch Weekend Update. Now it's so canned and you know what's happening. You know it's just going to be this bash on everything to the right. That
Yeah.
it's like, I've always been able to laugh at, like, I loved whenever Will Ferrell came up with strategery and his
Oh,
Bush. It was gold,
so
man.
so good. Yeah.
It was so hilarious. But I mean, and here's the thing that I think that a lot of the left humor has done on SNL, Comedy Central, and all those, is there's a big difference between laughing at and laughing with, right? Like we can laugh at ourselves and let you laugh along, but when it becomes this just kind of slanted activism, cloaked in humor, that's not that to me is something else. And what you have done, and what I love is the deadpan. It's sarcastic without being vicious. I mean, your delivery, I think, is
Oh, thank
fantastic.
you.
How long did it take you to kind of find your voice to do that, or was it natural? Has this been from the beginning to now?
No, I definitely took me a while to get my voice there. I think I noticed that I would get good responses for the more deadpan delivery types of videos like that. And also sometimes on stage people would comment like your deadpan stuff is so good. And so that started me gravitating to do more of the deadpan delivery style on the shorts that I'm doing. So I think I kind of gradually started to get in that direction. And I'm thank you for saying that about not being too um, like I'm just trying to be funny and have people laugh without really attacking someone. And I try hard to not really go off on anybody. Okay, there may have been Colbert. There might be a few people where there's a little bit of sting to it, but very rarely, and I think they really deserve it. So,
Yeah.
but most of the time, we're just gonna laugh about a thing and then be done. But yeah.
Well, and I think that it's crazy, man. And I'm hoping this gets you the exposure that you deserve. And as a matter of fact, we'll talk offline about I may have some ideas for your career about
Oh, great.
with some great contacts that I have that all they can do is say, yeah, not interested. But I don't think that'll be the case. Um, the timing right now is perfect because look, whether you're on the left or on the right, we're going through a time where the absurdity of politics and the absurdity of this administration. I mean, and look, I know it's always, wow, the what if, whatever. I mean, feel free to DM me and send me emails, folks. But the bottom line is, if you do not admit that if Joe Biden, God bless him, and he's my president, and I'm not going to make disparaging remarks about it, but if Joe Biden were a Republican, there would be such a slate. I mean, look what they did to Gerald Ford with Chevy Chase. So one of the things that made Chevy Chase famous on that first season of SNL, right, is bumbling and going down the stairs. I mean, Joe Biden actually fell upstairs more than once. I don't even know how you do that. And we're not supposed to laugh at it, but what you have done, but you have leveraged that absurdity without making fun of an almost octogenarian falling downstairs, which is not funny, really, other than he's the president of the United States. And so it's kind of weird, but you've made just this kind of deadpan note of how the silliness that we're seeing in Washington, D.C. in a way that, frankly, I don't see many people doing, man. So kudos.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Yeah. It's hard to try to thread the needle. Like, okay, I really want to laugh about this thing. I don't want to be too mean, but also it's funny and I am a comic. So we need we need to be able to laugh at this without, yeah. And I don't like how now it seems everything from Hollywood entertainment is, okay, if it's something that somebody on the left has done, we can't touch it. If it's something somebody on the right has done, oh, we are going to go hog on this thing 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, that's irritating.
Well, let's look at some of your handiwork. You good with that? Now let's
Absolutely. See. Yeah.
Let's see if the host doesn't screw up my technology here. Okay, so
President Biden warned that if the
there we go.
GOP takes the congressional majority, they'll go after health care.
And by the way, if they do, that means, not a joke, everybody, that's why we were defeated in 2018 when they tried to do it. We went to 54 states.
Although President Biden did refer to 54 states, the White House has confirmed that there are still only 50 states. Apparently, John Fetterman was running the teleprompter that night.
Comment, and subscribe.
Let's get another one in here.
Your dog and your cat, they're causing climate change. Now, I don't know if they're climate deniers, but they're definitely causing problems. Last month, CNN posted an article entitled, "Our Pets Are Part of the Climate Problem. These tips can help you minimize their carbon paw prints." In the article, CNN claimed that pets play a significant role in the climate crisis. They also seem to really have it out for dogs. The author conceded that you don't have to get rid of your furry friend, and it also said that people should not adopt the dog at all, but instead get a smaller animal like birds, turtles, or small rodents, one of the dumb pets. So it sure seems like they have it out for dogs in this article. Don't you think? Like, I think what they're saying...
Wait, my favorite part of that whole thing was you go, no, I'm not saying that they're climate deniers, but they're definitely causing problems. That's the money in that. That's the genius. I'm not saying that puppies are climate deniers, but they're definitely causing problems.
I'm glad you like that. When I saw that story on CNN, I'm like, oh, I have to do a video on this. This is so dumb.
And that's why right now the news and politics is set up so perfectly for you. It's like a big basketball on a tee. You don't even have to break a sweat. I love it. I'm sorry. You got to indulge me. I'm a fan, so we got to watch at least one. We got to watch one more.
President Biden commented on the hammer attack on Paul Pelosi, and he tried to link this attack to January 6th.
It's reported that the same chant was used by this guy they have in custody that was used on January 6th. The chant was, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?"
Several media outlets have also tried to make this connection. Now, in my analysis, I have found one similarity. The security at the Pelosi home appears to be about the same level of security that the Capitol had on January 6th.
Please like, comment,
exactly.
subscribe.
I mean, it's...
President Biden commented on the hammer attack on Paul Pelosi, and he tried to link this attack to January 6th.
It's reported that the same chant.
It's so easy. I mean, but I say it's easy to see the humor. It's beautiful the way you are taking it and just going, okay, I'm going to throw exactly what you've said back to you and let you, but also let you in on the absurdity, which is a fun way of doing it. To your point, you don't have to be mean, you don't have to be malicious, and you don't have to sit there and beat your fist and be the angry, get off my lawn guy saying this isn't fair. You found a great way to get the message across, man.
Yeah, thank you. I have so many where I'm just like the angry old man yelling about thinking. I'm thinking, Wes, you can't film that because that's not funny. That's not going to make somebody laugh. And so, oh man, there's so many where I can't. I haven't been able to come up with a funny video because I'm just too pissed off.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I try to draw the line, just say, well, I can't post anything unless there's arguably a joke in there. So I do try to make sure there's a joke, or I won't post something. At least at least an okay joke.
Yeah.
My attempt at a joke.
Well, and here's
there-
what. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say one of the things today's world is so crazy that there's always a bunch of people posting comments on YouTube where they say like, is this guy serious? I don't think that's really. I did one about nuclear war where what was it? Like somebody was saying that the bad thing about nuclear war was the climate change, and I was like, yeah, that's really my biggest concern
I remember.
nuclear, if they could do. And I couldn't believe the number of people saying, hey, nuclear war is really bad. I can't believe it. Like,
I know.
like, okay. It's just, yeah, it's just,
Well, I will admit, dude, that the first few that drew me in, I thought you were a serious commentator. I really did. So it's that. So for the people listening, you got to go check Wes's work out because you will think. What? And you know what it reminds me of? Okay, so are you familiar with Phil Hendry? Have you ever heard of Phil Hendry?
I don't know that I have.
Okay, I got to tell you, this guy was a genius. And I don't know if he's still around or not because I don't listen to radio. This is back before everything was podcast and YouTube and whatever. So what Phil Hendry would do is he would create some, really off-the-wall topic. For example, he came up with this idea, or it wasn't his. He was going to interview an educator that had this idea of rewarding children with sexual favors for good grades, okay? So that's what an educator is supposed to be saying. Now, what the audience was in on, those like me that were in on, Phil Hendry was the educator in question, and he was going to be interviewing himself. So he would pose as, I'm Phil Hendry, and today we've got so-and-so from the Education Society of America that's going to tell us about new and innovative ways to reward children. And then he would make it sound like he was interviewing a person. Well, it was both sides were Phil Hendry. And people that had not, and I was always amazed. There would be people call, and he would get people to call in, and they would just be, and he would argue, you cannot be serious that you should actually provide sexual favors as a reward for a child. So he would act, and then the person would like make their case. Okay, we got to take some calls on this, and people would call just livid, never knowing that it was Phil stirring them up with this absurdity. Like one time he had an idea that he had a guest on, which you can never get away with this now. He had a guest on talking about who was of Latin, I guess it was a Latin guy that was saying that we need to raise more macho children, and the way we need to do that is we need to start them smoking at a younger age and acting more like Desi Arnaz.
Oh my gosh.
And so he was talking about how we need more macho men, and the way to do it is to get them to smoke and to act more like Desi Arnaz. And so people would call in and go, Mr. Hendry, I don't know where you found this person, but this is absurd to suggest that a child should be smoking. And he'd go, and Phil Hendry would be like, I am in agreement with you. How dare you say such a thing about, and people, those of us like me, we would listen and be entertained by the outrage. But yeah, it's amazing how many people must just be flipping through the channels back in those days and go, what the hell did they just say? Sexual favors for good, what? And then so that's, I think, what happens with you. And the thing, we're living in a time now where there is so much absurdity. When people come across you, you have to really stop and watch the car crash long enough to go, was that a real crash or was it not? Because I can't believe my lying eyes these days. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think once somebody's seen a number of my videos and then they start to know, oh, okay, I kind of know this guy. He's a conservative. Then I think they'll enjoy them without being confused. But yeah, some people, when they see the first one, they're like, this guy's, I've gotten so many like super mean comments, and I know the person is a conservative and they're just really mad. I'm like, I'm making fun of the other side. Like, I'm with you. This is dumb.
Right. Well, I think it's genius. So what's next? I mean, are you just gonna like kind of? Do you have a plan? Are you just kind of taking this thing as it goes? What's next?
Like what I would love to do is I would love to be able to start doing a longer form show every week on YouTube. So my goal is I want to keep building my subscribers I'm just going to keep doing shorts for, a while longer to try to get up a pretty good base. And then I want to add in like a weekly show because I would love to do something like the old Daily Show with Jon Stewart, only it's the Daily Show with Wes Austin, and it's to make conservatives laugh. I'm just gonna. That's my audience. That's me. I love all of them, and that's what I'm gonna do because I feel like. So I would love to get to where I could have one longer form show a week and keep pumping out all the shorts, and that's my goal. And I would love to just get that show to grow and grow and hopefully get huge. That would be amazing. But I don't know where I'm trying to decide where the critical mass is, but I'm just like I'm doing something that YouTube seems to like, so just don't do anything else for a while. So I'm just trying not to just trying to really crank on the shorts for a while. But I don't know, I think I hit maybe 25,000 subscribers, and I'm just slowly but surely building that. So once I get to a certain number, I'll try to add in that longer show every week.
Well, and for the listener that doesn't know the difference between building a TikTok following, an Instagram following, or a YouTube following, I gotta believe the most difficult one with the highest standards of algorithm, I don't know, whatever discrimination or whatever is YouTube. So for you to have been able to build an audience of 20 or a subscriber base of 25,000 on YouTube, man, you're well on your way. And I think you're doing the exact right thing. I was actually hoping that's what you would say, because I do think you have a niche that you have fallen into. The timing is perfect. The humor is perfect. And I like you know, Jerry Seinfeld used to say about comedians that curse that it was lazy. Lazy, gutter humor. Now, granted, I love old Eddie Murphy stand-up. I do. I love Richard Pryor. So I don't think those guys were lazy, but I understand what Jerry Seinfeld was saying. It's like, it's more, you have to challenge yourself to be really, really funny without just throwing in taboo, right? And so
Right.
what I like about your humor is what we talked about earlier, is that you notice the absurdity of a topic, but you don't come at it from a malicious, mean, or demeaning place, and you still get the laugh, which to me, that's pretty cool creativity, man. I think that's really fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like I hope if I ever were to meet somebody that I've had as a subject to one of the videos that I don't know, like Whoopi Goldberg, I've had a bunch of hers
Oh
that
my
have done really well.
It's
And
such
I hope if
low-hanging fruit. Wow.
Yeah, and it's like I don't hate Whoopi. But she says things that are kind of out there, and so it's great. It's great content. But hopefully, I would be able to get along because it wasn't too personal. Like a lot of the stuff I see from a lot of the people on the left who are, Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel. It just seems like, oh, they really, really hate this. Like they're just going at
Mhm.
this person. They hate him so much. Like
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis, it just seems like they hate him so much. And it just doesn't seem like you're being funny. It just seems like you really hate this guy. It's basically your monologue is, I'm going to call this person names, which, I mean, I see that when I go to open mic. New open micers get up and they call people names. And you start to realize, yeah, well, that's not very funny or creative. Anybody can get up there and call somebody the F-bomb. And
Yeah.
yeah, you'll get some laughs from some open mic crowd people, but it's not going to get you very far, but because it's not very funny.
Could not agree more, man. And the thing is, like, it's interesting you mentioned those guys, because Charles Krauthammer was the first one I think that said the difference between conservatives and liberals in the way we look at each other is conservatives think liberals are wrong, liberals think conservatives are evil, and that's a big contrast. And you mentioned Jimmy Kimmel, so I know Ted Cruz is a longtime friend, and you remember when they did the basketball game, the one-on-one basketball game, Kimmel versus
Yeah.
Cruz, right?
Mhm.
At the end of that game, knowing Ted Cruz, for those who only know him by the caricature version, I get it, but Ted's a funny, lighthearted, does not take himself too seriously. He's just a good dude. And so he literally went to that game with good faith, thinking, okay, politics aside, we don't agree on anything. But at the end of it, Jimmy Kimmel looks at Catherine and Caroline, Ted's daughters, and says, well, it must be nice to see your dad actually win something. And that was the moment whenever and the guy, he's always come across here in the last 5 years, whatever, is just really angry and bitter. But that sealed it for me. I was like, this dude's just mean and he's just nasty, and that sucks. It really sucks.
Absolutely. He said that to his daughters.
Yeah, looks at the girls. Says it's good to see you, because he beat Ted beat him by one shot, I guess. And he says well, it must be nice to see your dad actually win something. Okay, who does that? Who does that?
No one.
Yeah.
What a jeez.
Yeah.
That is awful. I just did a video on Kimmel on another thing about Kimmel the other day ago, and I just was he's
with his 7, his audience of 7. That I saw.
Great
video. It was great.
When I just saw the clip of him saying like, yeah, the network came, they wanted me to be more neutral and not rip on one side, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, what? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just and then he's like, and I was the most popular among Republicans.
Among Republicans.
I thought, wow, this guy. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But you know what happens, man? It happens on both sides, that they live in this world where they can go completely off the rails, but that they get back into their safe cocoon, and everybody congratulates them for being who they are and saying the things they did and agreeing with them for the malicious comment. A lot of it's because they actually agree. A lot of it's because they're hangers-on and they're just sycophants. But either way, the idea of someone actually being just courageous and being able to, like, that's one of the things I really admire. It's crazy. I have complimented Bill Maher more in the last 6 months than I ever thought I would. And his podcast, by the way, I would never, you couldn't pay me to watch real time. But his podcast, where he's had Dave Rubin, he's had Kid Rock, he has guests, and he doesn't have his clapping seals of an audience that are, will laugh on cue. They know exactly what their marching orders are. It's just him one-on-one, and he has these great conversations to be able to go, you know what? We don't agree, but we can sit down and talk. He's had Ben Shapiro on. I wish we could get to a point where we could go back to that, but man, it's going to take a while, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's like, I remember way back in the day, I thought Bill Maher was like, wow, this guy is so far left and I can't even, but and now a lot of the stuff he says, like, hey, he's really speaking some truth right now. Bill Maher is laying it down, and he knows all of his friends on the left are going to go crazy on him, and he's still, I'm surprised at how much I like some of the stuff he says now.
I think one of the things that he's experiencing, since he actually will talk to conservatives, is, I don't know if you saw that video of some young kid that went to a Donald Trump rally to see, he was a liberal. He went saying he was going there to make friends. And afterward, he was shocked at how many people actually were willing to be his friend and were being kind. And
I didn't think I saw that, but that's fantastic.
It was great. He went there as kind of a tongue-in-cheek, I'm a liberal going to a Trump rally, and I'm going to see if I can make friends. And he would ask me, will you be my friend? And they're like, sure, I'll be your friend. And I think that Bill Maher, and in the recesses of his mind, has to see that this is very different. My own side will completely castigate me and will not have anything to do with me if I don't stay in line. Yet the conservatives, they don't try to proselytize me to their way of thinking, but they will listen to me, and we can actually talk and laugh. And that's the way it used to be. And I hope we can get back to a point. I've got a buddy of mine over in the UK, and he and I talk back and forth every once. He's one of the very few people I'll talk politics with these days. And we're on different sides of things. But we know at the heart of it, we all just want what's best. We love each other. I can laugh at the absurdity of my side. He can laugh at the absurdity of his side, and realize that hopefully there's a lot of people somewhere trying to just trying to make the world a better place without burning the whole thing down.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I have a lot of friends who are, on the left, and I feel like, we just need more people actually trying to understand the other side, because I think most people, unless you get on the super super far fringes of either side, people that are kind of just somewhere in the center ish, they both have points of view, and if you can just kind of understand where they're coming from, it would get so much farther instead of these people are the devil, and if they win, we will lose our country, period. They're going to kill your children. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
God, this is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I think laughter, but going back, bringing it back to what you're doing, I think laughter is such an anecdote to the hate. I I remember back whenever I was growing up and watching like All in the Family, the Jeffersons, those Sanford and Son, where they were able to make fun of the absurdity of Archie Bunker and his racist views. And by being able to laugh at it, it wasn't excusing it. It was being able to go, that's really absurd. And then when you see yourself in the absurdity, then it can be healed. And I think it goes for both ways. If we could just get back to being able to laugh at both sides and not be called evil for laughing at one, don't you laugh at my tribe, only make fun of the other tribe. If we just kind of, okay, and I think there's a few, Dave Chappelle is trying, Bill Burr. I could not imagine. So I don't know how much more stand-up that you want to do, but I couldn't imagine trying to like go on a really broad scale unless you just realize I'm going to be like Rogan or one of those guys and just to hell with the consequences. You're not going to cancel me because I'm not going to allow it. It's just such a different environment these days.
Yeah. The stand-up I do, so the videos I do on YouTube are kind of this, headline political humor, kind of a quick joke. The stand-up I do on stage is not political at all. It's kind of family stuff, being a lawyer stuff, just being a guy who's trying to get in shape. So I don't do any political stuff on stage at all. I don't know. I just kind of evolved that way. I don't know if it's because maybe I know when people are coming to shows, sometimes they're with their wife or husband or whatever, and there's going to be a decent chunk of people who are on the other side.
Sure.
Like, okay. So I try to do stuff that has nothing to do with politics when I'm performing in a club. But then my channel, is mainly for conservatives to make them laugh.
All right. So you mentioned a couple times about taking care of yourself. You've made some changes that got you healthier in addition to, nurturing your creative outlet. So what are the things that you're doing? What are you doing to, because that is something I obsess over is health and wellness, longevity, health span versus just lifespan. What are you doing?
So I have always loved weightlifting, and so I do weightlifting 6 days a week. So I do my body twice, and then I try to fit in maybe 2 or 3 cardios during that same week. And I do my fitness pal. I watch my calories, like, I just, because I want to know how much I'm eating and what's going in. I recently had blood work done, and, it looked like I had SHBG. I don't want, anyway, there was something called the SHBG that was way high. So I'm trying to, and I was trying to go super, super low carb, and I was listening to some things, and I think somebody said, like, if you're too low carb for too long, that can cause that thing to go out of whack. So I'm actually trying to work some carbs back in.
Yep.
But I'm old enough to where I can't just eat stuff without keeping track of what's going on.
Right.
And I know the weightlifting, just for as you get older, keeping the muscle mass is super important because it's going to start to just decay. So I'm trying to stay really consistent with that. I'm still trying to get bigger, but it's getting harder to get bigger. I've wanted to get bigger since I was like 12, and I still if I could just get my arms a little bigger, I think it would be better.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing that, I just had Matt Camberline, who's a biologist at the University of Washington, one of the leading researchers in the country on health span and lifespan. He's done a lot of work with David Sinclair. In fact, they shared a lab at one time, and David Sinclair is the one that wrote the book, Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. and he hit between him and Peter Attia, who I listen to everything Peter says and read all of his work, Ben Greenfield. All of them say that resistance training is the key to longevity. But to your point, and to the listener out there, the older you get, the harder, excuse me, the harder it is to add lean body mass. It's really, really challenging. And so I hear you. I mean, I'm still in that stage where, and it always gets on my wife's and every dude's nerves whenever I say this, but I still bulk really easily for some reason. And so I kind of,
Oh, do you?
I do. And I bitch about that, and I will admit it. But I don't worry so much now because I realize that for bone density and for longevity, I need to go into my 50s, 60s, and 70s with as much muscle mass as I can because it's going to be harder to keep and maintain as I get older. With regard to the blood sugar thing as well, and your blood work that you were doing, and yes, being low carb for too long, I learned from one of my mentors, Joel Green, wrote the book The Immunity Code. I highly encourage you to check that book out. You would love it. He makes the argument, and he's right. He's done the research that if you stay in ketosis for too long of a period, our pancreas is like anything else. It will reduce its ability to produce the insulin that we need to control our blood sugar. And so therefore you have to have those stimulating feeding days where you actually give yourself a few more carbs to increase your insulin production just to keep it in balance. And then another thing that I have added as a result of listening to Mike Mutzel, who has High Intensity Health, great. If you don't subscribe to his channel, you would love it, is berberine. Berberine is one of the best natural ways to maintain your glucose levels. So those are just some.
Is that a supplement you take, berberine?
Yeah, but it's all natural. It's essentially
Okay.
it's from a root, I believe. I may have that wrong, but it is just it's a natural it's a natural supplement. So it's not synthetic. It's not man-made, and like. For example, last night I was going to cheat and go have some Andy's frozen custard with Mrs. Wright. Before I go do that, I take 2 berberine. Anytime I know I'm going to have extra carbs,
Okay.
I will preload with a little bit of berberine and what it does is it keeps the spikes from happening. And that's what as you don't want that. Those people, that's what causes the insulin resistance is whenever you have these massive swings in glucose levels, then all of a sudden your body just, you form an insulin resistance, and we want to keep that sensitivity as long as we can. And berberine really helps to prevent those big spikes. So there's something.
I'm gonna go get some of that stuff. That
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. Like
Yeah.
I got into a rut where I was trying to, lose a little bit of weight, but I loved a cheat day, and so I started doing this crazy thing where my cheat day was on Sunday, and it was crazy. Like I would hit probably I'm still like 5,000 or 6,000 calories, like nuts.
Yeah.
But then during the week, I was having 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories, and then I was reading and researching, and I finally realized, okay, I shouldn't do that because I was basically by starving myself, I was kind of screwing up my metabolism so I've been working on getting my daily caloric thing back, up to maybe 1,700,
Mm-hmm.
slowly getting it higher to what kind of almost reverse dieting a little bit to get my metabolism so it's not. And I have been able to maintain my weight where it was, even though I've been increasing those calories. So I definitely made that mistake of basically starving myself during the week so that I could just almost kill myself on a Sunday with bowls of ice cream and cookies and all sorts. So I am trying to correct that I'd been doing.
I need to email you some stuff. One of the things I learned from Joel in his book, and I actually took his immune-centric health certification course, is when you offset your meals, there's so many different things you can do. He makes the argument that the meal at hand, the meal that you're eating right now, is not nearly as critical as the meal that happened before and the one that has after. And if you will offset that cheat meal with the right things, and you can't do this all the time, right? You can't just eat like crap. Can't figure in eating like crap. But what the protocol that he suggests does, it allows for ad libitum eating, which we're all going to do. We're all going to have those social events, holidays,
Right.
where you just like, I want to enjoy this. There's a psychological aspect to being able to go and enjoy a good Thanksgiving meal and not freak out. And the ways you can do that with the berberine, and like, another thing that's a great way to maintain insulin sensitivity and to not have those spikes is like 30 minutes prior to a big meal that you know is going to be kind of carb heavy is one to I always my wife laughs at me. I will go into the bathroom before we're going to go eat a big meal at a restaurant, and I'll do like 40 air squats so that you can lower your glucose levels in your muscles. And what will happen is your muscles are starving. They're going to be the first ones to take whatever you bring back in. So go do some air squats. And then before you get there, though, eat like a handful of macadamia nuts or some walnuts. And those will, again, they will stabilize your blood sugar for the meal that you have at that time. So there's all these little tricks that you can do that just get your body into the proper rhythm where, again, you always want to eat right. And then another thing, do you do any intermittent fasting or do you have a feeding window or anything like that?
Yeah, so I usually I don't eat anything in the morning. My first meal is a smaller lunch around like 1:30,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have dinner at like 6:30, and then I'm pretty much done eating by 7:30 or something. So I don't eat. I am kind of intermittent fasting every
Yep.
day because I just have that shorter window.
Yeah, and I think that's smart. That's one of the things when people ask me, like a great example. My mom just sent me a text yesterday, and she said that she's like, "What is your fasting schedule or whatever?" And the first thing I tell anybody when they want to lose weight or want to kind of get their feeding window appropriated, I say, well, the first thing is just don't eat within 3 hours of going to bed. If you'll just, which for me is like I have a rule: I don't eat after 8 o'clock if I can help it. And then don't eat before 10 or 11. If you'll just do that, it makes such a difference. And also one of the things that I'm hearing from you is you're not consuming a lot of calories. And that's another thing that people don't realize. We don't need as many calories as what we've been told. This 2,000 to 2,500 calorie diet that everybody got so fixated on, we don't need the amount of calories that, like so many of the other recommendations with the food pyramid that's absolute crap and everything else.
Mhm.
So it sounds to me like
Yeah.
you got a pretty good protocol there.
Well, oh, thank you. Before I started keeping track of my calories, you really don't know how many you're bringing in until you actually like, okay, I am going to keep track of everything. Like, don't guess. You
Mhm.
really have to do everything for a few days, and then you'll be enlightened and think, holy crap, I was having 2,700 calories a day.
Yep.
Okay, now you know. See, but when you're just guessing, they're so far off. Like, just
Yep.
keep track at least until you get your system down, and then you'll know about where you are. But oh man, because there's some things when you realize how many calories are in it, you're like, okay, I can't have a lot of peanut butter
Mhm.
because each little spoonful is, yeah,
Well, and not only
yeah.
that, a lot of people don't realize this, that, and by the way, yeah, there was research. I think it was Sachin Panda or somebody was a part of this research that said that like 80%, some crazy number of people completely undershot their caloric intake. And it wasn't because they were trying to fudge. It's just, like you said, they just really didn't know until they actually accounted for it. But also, all these industrial seed oils that are in almost
Oh,
everything that are causing
yeah.
inflammation. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to is lowering inflammation in our bodies. And most old people are walking around highly inflamed. People that are really obese. The inflammation, that's why so many people that died of COVID, which was age related, and a lot of it was morbid obesity, their bodies were inflamed. So they've already sent out, I know you usually have your stormtroopers in the back, in your background on your videos. They've already sent the stormtroopers out to fight just to survive the bad eating habits they have, so that whenever all of a sudden now you get COVID, they're exhausted. The stormtroopers are already, they've already been dispatched elsewhere. And so
Yeah.
now, and so that's a lot of things. There's so many hidden things that people don't pay attention to. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You mentioned these guys. Just wanted you to know they're
Yes.
nearby. It's
They
right
are,
there.
and maybe it's just my weird observant humor. To me, that's one of the best parts of the consistency of your videos, and the fact that it's your background with just, oh, there's a couple stormtroopers. There's a stormtrooper. Oh, okay, that's all right. Whatever. I love it. It's just
Yeah.
that little subtle thing to let you know this is funny. I mean, I love
I
it.
I think I first set up my to film, and I thought this looks so boring. I don't have anything, and I had a stormtrooper, so I, you know, I, 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 put my little stormtrooper just back in the corner. I kind of liked it, and so I just kept with my, and then I liked it more, so I got a few more stormtroopers, and now I've got like 3. So yeah, it's kind of a fun little quirky thing that I don't know. It just made me smile a little bit more just seeing those dudes behind me, kind of just watching over what's happening.
Well, Wes, any set designer worth their salt has always said it's not complete until you get a stormtrooper, and it's not complete. It's just, I'm pretty sure that in interior design schools are like, okay, you must have a stormtrooper. Have you got a stormtrooper? So I think you nailed it. Well done, sir. See,
Yeah, I'm sure there are so many people horrified. Like, he felt. Why would he have those?
yeah.
Nothing makes me more mad when somebody on YouTube calls them dolls. I almost lose my mind. That's the one thing that would just send me over the edge. It's like, oh, I like your dolls. Ooh. Cool.
Oh, why do you have Star Wars dolls in your videos?
That makes me so mad. They're action figures.
That's
They are
right.
Stormtroopers.
Show of respect. Well, Wes, okay. I hope this isn't the last time we visit, my friend. This has been fun,
It's
dude.
been wonderful.
This
so fun.
I want you to come back. I want to support your comedy any way I can. Tell people where they can find out more about you and catch you if you're doing any stand-up. Just where can people stay in touch with you, man?
I would say subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to Wes Austin on YouTube. And then probably my Facebook page, Wes Austin, and then Instagram. I think it's Wesley Austin on Instagram. Those you can keep up with me. I do perform quite a bit in and around Salt Lake City right now. I have a Dry Bar Comedy special. So if you go to Dry Bar Comedy, either on their Facebook or YouTube pages, you'll be able to see some of my comedy. And I'll hopefully keep posting comedy like that. Definitely the YouTube shorts will keep coming every day. So if you are conservative and you want to be able to laugh about something, I hope you check out my YouTube shorts.
Fantastic. Wes Austin, thank you, brother. Sit tight and I'll say goodbye properly. Let me hit quit here.